Ever stared at a stack of Angpaos, just frozen, wondering if you're about to commit a massive social blunder? Well, you are not alone. We've been there. Trust us. Giving and receiving Angpao, or red envelopes, seems simple, but there's this whole secret language to it. A hidden etiquette passed down through whispers and really awkward smiles. And if you don't know the rules, you are setting yourself up for some seriously memorable mistakes. Today, we're breaking our silence. We are confessing our most cringeworthy, hilarious, and downright mortifying Angpao blunders. We're going to share the stories that still make us want to hide under a table, all to reveal the unwritten rules that you absolutely need to know. So, let's start with what I call the case of the mistaken identity bill. It was Chinese New Year. The house was packed with relatives, and I was feeling pretty proud of myself. I had my stack of crisp, new Angpaos ready. I was making my rounds, handing them out to all the kids and unmarried cousins. Everything was going great. Smiles, gong shi fa cai, the whole deal. Then, I get to my youngest cousin. He's maybe 7 years old. I hand him the Angpao with a big smile, and he immediately tears it open right in front of everyone. Which, by the way, is kind of rule number 1 for kids. Maybe wait until you get home. But that wasn't the embarrassing part. He pulls out the bill, looks at it, looks at me, and his little face just crumbles. He holds up a $5 bill. Now, in our family, the unspoken minimum for little kids is at least 10, maybe 20. I had prepped stacks of $50 bills and $10 bills. My heart sank. I must have accidentally slipped a rogue $5 bill I had in my wallet into the wrong envelope. The silence in the room was deafening. My aunt, his mom, gave me this look. It wasn't angry. It was pity. It was the "oh, you poor, clueless soul" look. I wanted the floor to swallow me whole. I tried to laugh it off, saying something like, "Oh, that's the lucky starter pack. The big one is coming later." It didn't work. The damage was done. From that day on, I triple check every single Angpao before it leaves my hand. The lesson: prepare your Angpaos in a calm, organized manner, far away from any loose change or random bills. And maybe, just maybe, use different colored Angpaos for different amounts. Now, giving the wrong amount is one thing, but what about the awkwardness of receiving an Angpao when you really shouldn't? This next story is a masterclass in social gymnastics. I had just gotten married a few months before Chinese New Year. For those who don't know, once you're married, you graduate. You move from the receiving team to the giving team. It's a rite of passage. So, my husband and I were at his family's gathering, our first one as a married couple. We were dutifully handing out Angpaos to our nieces, nephews, and younger, unmarried cousins. Then, my husband's grandaunt, a sweet, elderly lady who was a little forgetful, comes up to me. She beams, grabs my hands, and presses a thick Angpao into my palm, saying, "For a happy marriage and many children soon." My brain just short-circuited. My face was screaming, "No, thank you. I'm married now." But my mouth couldn't form the words. My husband was standing right there, frozen in a silent panic. All I could do was smile and nod awkwardly. Rejecting an Angpao from an elder is a huge sign of disrespect, but accepting it felt like I was breaking a fundamental rule of the universe. So I took it, but the guilt was immense. It felt like I had cheated the system. I spent the next hour trying to figure out how to secretly return it. Do I slip it back into her bag? Do I give her a supersized Angpao in return? We ended up discreetly giving it to one of her kids later, explaining the situation. They just laughed and said, "Yeah, she does that." It was a relief, but the initial moment of pure unadulterated panic will forever be etched in my memory. The unwritten rule here is tricky. While you shouldn't accept an Angpao if you're married, you also should never, ever embarrass an elder. The best course of action is to accept it gracefully and find a diplomatic solution later. Let's talk about the danger zone of giving Angpao to people you're not quite sure about. Like, what's their marital status? Are they still considered youth? This happened at a friend's New Year party. It was a mix of close friends and friends of friends. There was this one guy there who looked quite young. I'd never met him before, and I assumed he was a student, maybe a younger brother of my friend. So, when I was handing out my friend Angpaos, I gave him one. He looked at the red envelope in his hand, then at me, and said, with a completely straight face, "Thanks, but my wife and I are over there." He points to a woman across the room holding a baby. A baby. The man was not only married, he was a father. I had just given a token Angpao meant for an unmarried friend to a full-blown family man. The level of cringe was off the charts. I stammered an apology, something about him looking so young, which probably just made it worse. He was cool about it, but I avoided making eye contact with him for the rest of the night. So, the lesson here is, when in doubt, don't. If you're not sure about someone's marital status, it's safer to just wish them a happy new year. A cheerful greeting is always better than a potentially insulting Angpao, and it's not just about marital status. It's also about hierarchy. I once made a terrible mistake at my first job. The company was quite traditional, and during Chinese New Year, the bosses would give Angpaos to the junior staff. I was an intern, so I was definitely on the receiving end. My direct manager gave me one, and the department head gave me one. Then, the big boss, the CEO, was making his rounds. He came to our department, and he was handing them out personally. He gave one to my manager, and then he turned to me. For some insane reason, my brain thought, oh, we're all exchanging festive goodwill. So, I reached into my bag, pulled out one of the Angpaos I had prepared for my younger cousins, and tried to give it to him. I said something like, "Happy New Year to you too, sir." The entire department went silent. The CEO just stared at the Angpao in my hand, then at my face. He had this little, confused smile. My manager subtly elbowed me, and I quickly realized the gravity of my mistake. You don't give an Angpao to your boss. You just don't. It's like tipping the owner of a restaurant. It messes up the whole power dynamic. I retracted my hand so fast I think I pulled a muscle. I just stood there, bright red, wanting to evaporate. He was kind enough to just laugh and walk away, but my colleagues teased me about it for weeks. The rule is crystal clear. Angpaos flow downwards in a corporate setting, from senior to junior, never the other way around. These stories might sound funny now, but in the moment, they were social minefields. The unspoken rules of Angpao are all about showing respect, acknowledging relationships, and understanding your place within the family or social structure. It's about being mindful. So, always use new, crisp bills. Avoid coins. Never use the number 4, as it sounds like the word for death. And always give with 2 hands to show respect. The world of Angpao etiquette is complex, but it's also full of heart. At the end of the day, it's a gesture of goodwill, a wish for prosperity and happiness for the year ahead. And if you do make a mistake, like we clearly have, just smile, apologize if you need to, and remember the story for your next YouTube confession. We've all been there. What about you? Have you ever accidentally insulted someone with an Angpao? Or accepted one when you knew you shouldn't have? Share your most embarrassing Angpao stories in the comments below. Let's all feel a little better about our own blunders together. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories.